live stream, I have a cameras facing out that way into the retail space. Hello, goslings.
Hello, puppets. Hello, goslings. Hello, everyone. Hello, welcome.
Welcome to the Lord of the Rings Hobbit live stream. I can't talk because I'm eating. The salted pork is particularly good. All right, there's my little Merry and Pippin joke for the day. You are here, you are live on the interwebs. There is pizza. Pizza time. Crushed red pepper packets. Well, I can't eat pizza without my crushed red pepper packets. You know, it's a shame. Speaking to my co-host, who's not here, who doesn't exist. It's me, Clifford, co-hosting with this guy, Justin, the empty chair. I feel like Clint Eastwood at the Republican National Convention. Talking to an empty chair. No, I mean, Justin's going to be here in a second, but you guys are here live on theonering.net, Torn Tuesday. I'm having my second breakfast. What that really is my first lunch, because I had no... I'm going to have Hunter come in and say hi to the folks for 5 minutes. I had no breakfast, I had no second breakfast, I had no tea or lunch, so this is my first lunch. So my only bloody meal of the day is having a slice of pizza here. Not an entirely satisfying choice, certainly not nutritional, but what the heck. I'm eating live on the air and I don't care. Hello there, Justin, how you doing there? You know, you're not even coming on the screen yet. All right. Don't worry about it, Hunter. You don't have to worry about it. Yeah, well, you see, I see what you're doing over there. Find me a plastic sippy cup, Justin. Oh, you know, we're going to have a show. Since I'm talking to you guys live, I might as well get back to the live broadcast. Oh, yeah, that's cute. Here's my little... This is my sippy cup for... Jeez Louise. It's crazy talk. This guy's crazy. We're going to get... into a very intriguing and hopefully edifying conversation. We're going to get into a conversation today about Professor Tolkien as a very talented artist. Hello, I see the live chat. We have Jean, Deborah, Kaylin, Griffin. Wow, all these live chatters on Facebook. Yes, I never have time to eat my Hobbit meals either. You know, I know. I see you guys live on our theonering.net/live. That's our live event page. We're on Ustream. We're on Facebook. We'll eventually have this archived on, on YouTube. But look, I don't even get a co-host yet. This is not my co-host. This is not my co-host. This is where, Justin's head just came clean off, rolled into a hole, and invented the game of golf at the same time that the battle was won. Yes, it's the legend of Bull Roarer Took. My great-great-grandfather, Bull Roarer Took, who took the head off of Justin, my co-host, clean off and sailed down into a hole and invented golf. I love that little anachronistic joke. There's some anachronisms, some anachronistic humor in The Hobbit. That's really quite fun. We will have Hunter come back, and he's going to come and say hi, introduce himself to the audience. 11ses? Yeah, I guess so. This is supposed to be my sippy cup. So, this is the part where Dory goes to get a big glass of wine for Gandalf, and Gandalf ends up with this little tiny, and he drinks the wine and goes, so sad, because Gandalf wanted a larger glass of wine, and he's like, so tiny. It was really fun. Yes, hello, Jean. I should be finishing a paper for college class, but instead I'm watching Torn Tuesdays. Yes, much more important to watch Torn Tuesdays. We're going to do a little bit of an artistic and historical exploration of Professor J.R.R. Tolkien as an artist and illustrator. Not only was he a very famous writer and a linguist, not only was he a highly accomplished academic and a philologist inventing amazing languages, but Professor Tolkien was also an illustrator and a watercolorist, a painter, quite talented. He was quite the talented fellow. Now hold on just one quick second. I'm going to look outside the door and see if somebody's hiding outside my studio door. Not only was he a highly accomplished academic and a philologist. Someone to come in. I don't even worry about it. Well, never mind. That was kind of funny. I really wanted him to just hop in, but now I don't even see where he is. We're here at Meltdown. This is. Oh no, dude, you're so awesome. Come on in. You didn't have to do that. What'd you do?
I went to the liquor store.
You were. Oh, come on and sit down.
Of course.
Hunter Fox, ladies and gentlemen, is going to crash the show. That's hilarious. You didn't go to the liquor store. They had it back.
We looked. We searched.
You didn't. Dude. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be temporarily co-hosting with Hunter Fox, who's a very, very talented RPG game designer, and he's deep involved in the worlds of fantasy and Tolkien. Like I said, he's a developer and self-publishing a very cool role-playing game. If you guys know your D20 systems and you're of course got your roots down in the Dungeons and Dragons soil, like right here at Meltdown Comics, they do the Sunday live broadcast of the D&D games that they have. But this fellow, he's a very talented man, and he's gonna get to introduce himself a little bit. But before Justin comes in to talk with us later, we have a lot of artwork that we're uploading. We have all these high-res images we're trying to put up into the TriCaster so we can show some of Professor Tolkien's outstanding watercolors and his original paintings and artworks.
Right.
And we're going to be talking about some of his design and illustration work. Not about his languages.
Right.
We usually talk about his stories and his languages. Today
That's where it all got started, too.
Yeah. We'll be talking about his artwork today. I know we promised to do that last week and we never got around to it. But anyways, how you been, Mr.
I've been
Man?
doing very well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for telling me to come by.
I'm so glad you are always welcome to crash the show.
Thank you very much.
We have very talented people in this town, including people from Film Threat, movie producers, writers, just game designers,
right.
Video game and tabletop game designers. They come in and they crash our show all the time. You're good people. You're welcome. Now tell me something. You have a little bit of a background. I'm going to do the Gandalf bit. Pretend you're Dory, right, handing me the wine, right? And I'll, instead of you ask me for chamomile tea, and I tell Dory, no, I'll have red wine. And you hand this to me and you say, a nice fruity bouquet. That's your line. That's right there.
A nice fruity bouquet.
And I go, I gotta make my Ian McKellen, my sad face. I gotta do it every time. So hi, you have a background in actually being a park ranger, or
I was a park ranger.
you were a park ranger.
Yeah,
This
and-
man is an out. He's not only is he a very crafty, clever fox, designing games. Like his name's Hunter Fox, but he's also got a background in like the great wilderness, the great outdoors.
Well, I don't know how much of a wilderness it was. I was actually a park ranger for the
Yeah.
great city of Beverly Hills.
The great city of Beverly Hills.
No joke. There was
Why
a.
do they need a park ranger?
There's a National Historic Monument, right? And it's super haunted. It's called Greystone Manor. It's in like tons of movies.
Oh, I know Greystone Manor.
Yeah.
I've
Big Lebowski, the whole thing.
I've worked there many, many times for special events that have been booked there.
That's how I got the job, actually. I was a
Really?
waiter there at 16 years old, and they offered me the park ranger gig.
No way.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
we got into college.
No way, dude. I worked there. I worked there as a bartender and a waiter.
It's
for,
terrible.
For
There's so
different
many stairs.
companies. Yeah. Oh wow. So it's supposedly more haunted than, say, the Magic Castle, which to me is the most haunted property in Los Angeles, aside from the very famous Hollywood Athletic Club,
Right.
which is a few blocks down from us.
Wait, what's the story behind that one?
Okay, all right, they were all friends going back in time, going way back to the 20s and the 30s. Rudolph Valentino and let's see, what's his name? John Wayne, when he was much younger, Rudolph Valentino,
Okay.
Errol Flynn,
Oh.
and that famous family that has that huge Fairbanks. Douglas Fairbanks Sr., Douglas Fairbanks Jr., and all those guys were all buddies, and Errol Flynn. So one of them died. Let me see, I'm not sure who it was. I'm not sure, it might have been Valentino.
Not John Wayne.
It wasn't John Wayne, but John Wayne was famous for dropping pool balls, billiard balls on top of people from the. Oh yeah.
No.
From 2 stories up. Yeah, John Wayne did that. But the Hollywood Athletic Club was famous because all those good old boys in the 1920s Hollywood golden era were hanging out there, and it was their favorite place to drink and carouse when they weren't on the set. And they took, I think it was Errol Flynn's dead body. Maybe it was Valentino. I'm not sure. But they took his dead body out of the LA County morgue.
Okay.
They brought him back to the bar, plopped him up.
John Wayne didn't drop him from the
It
patio
wasn't
above.
John Wayne. No. It was Rudolph Valentino, or it was one of the Fairbanks brothers involved in doing this. So I don't know who it was. I don't know if it was Errol Flynn's dead body or if it was Valentino's dead body. But they propped him up on the bar, so they could sit together, stand. They could stand together at the bar and have one last pint. And they put a drink in his cold, dead hands, literally, while they propped his body up at the bar, and they kept him there for the rest of the night for the party that they had, for one last farewell. But yeah, that's like the Hollywood Athletic Club.
Yeah.
Now we know this place because the OneRing.net very famously had a couple of big Oscar parties at that location.
Okay.
Oscar parties for the Fellowship of the Ring and the Two Towers, respectively. And that was the party where Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh and Howard Shore and Ian McKellen and Elijah Wood, they all came to our event. They left the Oscars, which was 2 blocks up, at the Kodak Theater.
Right.
And they came a few blocks down to Sunset Boulevard to
To come represent.
hang with the fans and to hobnob. And since I was the master of ceremonies, I had the great pleasure of bringing all these people up on stage. And there were some guests who were very spooked out by the lower levels of the Hollywood Athletic Club. I didn't mean to railroad your
No,
story.
but what
You get
happened?
back to your story. There used to be a pool. There was a large, Olympic pool area.
Right.
It had been dried out since the 30s, and it was used as a party space.
Okay.
Weddings, movie premieres, bar mitzvahs, I don't care, whatever. Like Greystone.
Right, exactly.
Similarly, people were just using the
whole-
venue. We used it. We, the OneRing.net, booked the venue for our purposes too, as we would have at that place, So when certain people got down into that lower area that used to be the pool, they felt manifestations of the supernatural that made them uncomfortable, particularly cold spots. The first thing that everybody noticed was cold spots. Yeah, in the 97-degree LA heat. There were very unnatural cold spots down there. And after we finished putting in fog machines, decor, lights, and a DJ, and we had the whole space set up, we had lots and lots of guests who just wouldn't go. They felt clammy, uncomfortable. However they described it, they felt a twitch.
Right.
There was something, I feel a disturbance in the force, way off in the distance, whatever. But we had a whole bunch of fans who paid hundreds of dollars to come to this exclusive Oscar event, and they just wouldn't go down there. They wouldn't.
Right.
They wouldn't even go down there. Of course, later on in the evening, they had a reason not to go down there because Peter Jackson and Elijah Wood and Howard Shore had brought their Oscars, and they were all upstairs visiting and
Oh, yeah.
like rubbing elbows
And you
with
wanna
us
see that.
and letting people hold their Oscars and talking to fans and just hanging out. But anyways, Hollywood Athletic Club, one of the most haunted places. Total derailing this conversation, excuse me, but continue to introduce your story about.
Check it out.
Oh my God! Check out the Hollywood Athletic Club. That's quite a story, and I personally connected to it myself because I had command of that stage, but I had no command of the spirits in the room.
Oh, no,
I
who
couldn't-
does, right?
No, not me.
You know, one
Certainly
of the
not
worst
me.
jobs as the park rangers, we would do tours, right? And then my senior ranger would look at me and
Did
say,
you?
"You need to set up those chairs for like a part of our tour." And there'd be senior citizens falling asleep in the chairs and whatnot. But I would go in and I had to do it by myself. And all the stories that I heard, I would try to just stack them as fast as possible and get on out, because there was that kind of that twitch you said, you know?
Really?
Where you kind
You
of feel
noticed
the
it too?
tingling. Oh God, it was terrible.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So stories or
I thought park ranger means, out there with Yogi and
No.
Boo Boo out in Yellowstone, trying to get the bears out of the honey pot. No, but you were in Beverly Hills,
Yeah,
right?
like, sir, excuse me, you can't do that. And then the entitled Beverly Hills air, like, oh, you can't tell me what to do, and that kind of a thing.
Oh, that BS.
Totally.
BS.
Totally.
Okay, now tell us real quickly about your transition to developing fantasy role-playing games. Let's talk about that.
You know, I've always had a fascination, and Tolkien kind of comes into it too. I had a great-grandmother who took me to go see Tolkien in Oklahoma.
Yeah?
I saw Fellowship of the Ring, and, besides her falling out of her theater chair at one point, and we had to get the staff to come pick her up.
Really?
Yeah, it was terrible. But afterwards, I saw Tolkien, and it kind of convinced me to not to make role-playing games, because I was probably 8 years old in 3rd grade, but to actually go get a D&D book.
So you hadn't read them yet?
I hadn't read them yet.
Okay.
But I saw the movie.
Yeah.
And that convinced me from then on out to go read The Hobbit and then follow through with the
Yeah.
rest of the series.
Oh, yeah?
And
Okay.
then jump straight into D&D.
Okay, yeah, right into, oh gosh, yes, Dungeons and Dragons, which is something I picked up when I was like 11 years old.
Right.
At the same time I had finished reading The Hobbit. And that's when commercially available starter boxes.
The red box.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Dungeons and Dragons. Dude,
Way
the
beyond-
Dungeons and Dragons with a little blue coupon card you'd have to mail in to Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay.
In hopes that those nice people would send me back a bubble pack of my little multi-polyhedral dice.
Really?
Yeah, there were no dice.
There's no dice in
I
the
had to
box.
send off that bloody blue coupon to get my dice. This was,
You're
believe
sitting
me,
there reading the
dude.
books.
This was the late 70s, all right? Okay, I was just a skid.
It's snail mail.
I was just a skid. I was just a skid, Mark. No, I wasn't. I was just a kid. I'm dating myself, obviously. I'm 47, but back in the late 70s, it was all about Tolkien, because that was when Bakshi had his animated film coming out from United Artists,
With the Hobbit movie or?
The Lord of the Rings.
Wait, I've never even heard of this.
The Hobbit was broadcast on television, and it was made by Rankin and Bass,
Okay.
the people who made Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and, The Year Without a Santa Claus. So anyways, in the 70s, it was about the Hobbit animated cartoon on television, but to go to the theaters to see United Artists release that big psychedelic Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings, which only managed to tell the first half of the story.
Okay.
After the Battle of Helm's Deep, the movie abruptly ends and you never get the end of the story. But anyways, that was
They
where
lost
we were.
their funding.
Well, no, they didn't lose their funding. No, it wasn't like that. It's quite a detailed story. You're unfamiliar with Bakshi's Lord of the Rings?
Completely.
Okay. Hey guys, first gen readers of Tolkien began in the 50s. In many cases, The Hobbit, published in the 1930s, published in the same year as The Wizard of Oz. It's hard to get your brain around it because I meet new gen fans who have Peter Jackson be their direct entry point into the fandom. But me, my introduction was just picking up the book, in the 70s when I was a
Right.
kid, because in the 70s was all the Hobbit cartoon from Rankin Bass, and my brother and I were, we were just kids. We were, he was 12, I was 10. It was terribly exciting time
Oh, yeah.
to be a kid, and he was discovering musical references in all the Led Zeppelin albums. Then he's like, oh, he's talking about Gollum, and
Right.
Robert Plant is singing about In the Darkest Depths of Mordor.
Mordor.
So we got so into it. My brother got into rock and roll. At the same time, we got into The Hobbit. That was where we were at that point. Okay, so you picked up D&D right after.
Oh, yeah.
So reading the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings, was it an amazing experience to see the film first and then read them? How was
It's
that?
kind of like reading Game of Thrones.
'Cause I
after
can
you've
never
seen the
say
shows.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a different experience because you know what to expect, but there's like another layer of detail that kind of gets you into everything and
Yeah.
really truly invests you in every character.
Yes, definitely.
That's the complete difference, you know, from the different generations' perspectives of what to do or how they perceive the different characters.
So you've been a pencil and paper tabletop gamer since you were 8 or 9?
See, that was the sad thing. You know, I was too embarrassed to actually get friends to play D&D because of the stigma to it. So I just I would literally literally look at
Nerd
books
stigma. Nerd stigma. Hashtag nerd stigma is real.
in the closet.
Well, figuratively speaking.
That's where I would keep my D&D books. I swear, so nobody would
Really?
see it. No joke.
No way.
I'm not even kidding. I think it was even my sister's closet too.
You didn't know that you were going to grow up and be such a cool rock and roller. And you just thought, I can't do it. This is embarrassing. I can't play D&D in front of my friends.
See, and then I would
'Cause
just
we
read
had-
the books, and that's all I would do. And until I was probably 16, and that was probably the first
Got to
time
be
I played.
kidding me.
Not kidding.
We had friends who would locate each other and form social clubs because of our love of D&D.
Right.
It was a welcoming magnet because those are the people that I wanted to hang with anyways. The people who were cool gamers, those are the cool guys, you know.
See,
but
and that's how I think now, you know. I just had such low self-esteem. I was kind of like, that's D&D.
I can't
It's
believe
fun.
that from you, dude. Okay, so now you've taken this love of pencil and paper gaming. Now tell us about this new game you've designed and how long you've been working on it.
Oh God, you know, I've been working on it for maybe 3 years now.
Yeah?
Actually, I had so many problems trying to release it. Besides like low resolution prints after proofs, just terrible stuff. But I got started doing it because I ran a D&D game for a girlfriend, right?
Yep.
I was like, hey, I'm gonna get out of my shell. I'm gonna show her how to play this.
Yes.
And we were running an adventure, and she just looked at me and said, "You think this is fun?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." So then I decided to create a game system that's more
Did
oriented
you
for
say
new players.
ex-girlfriend?
It is an ex-girlfriend.
Oh, dude! Ex-girlfriend, did you say? Okay.
Kick to the curb.
Oh, that's hardcore. That's hardcore to be with someone consciously coupled, Gwyneth. I mean, it's really hard to be consciously coupled with somebody who does not share your interests at that level, especially if you're going to be dedicating weekends and hours.
Sit down around the table, roll some dice, you know?
Yeah, you bring people together. It's going to build a network of friends. It's going to fill up your social calendar. It's a wonderful thing, and it's going to fire up your imagination. Who would not find that fun? Okay. Oh, you guys are so cute. All right. I tried not to LOL, but my heart broke for Cliff. Why would your heart break for me? Don't. No, you guys are talking in a little bit of a 2 or 3 minute delay to what we're talking about, but we can always come in and out with our conversation with the live chatters. They're with us. They're listening.
You need to get my binoculars though, because I can't read. I don't have my glasses.
Really? You don't have your glasses too? Okay. Hey. Hello, Hannah, Ellen Design, Aerovandi, Kaylin Griffin. I see over there in Facebook. There's Jean. Was it Jean? Jean Bourgeois. Rankin Bass Lord of the Rings was good. Their lone version of Return of the King was good too. I love the songs in it. Yes. Yeah. Rankin and Bass did the Return of the King.
Right.
For many reasons, because Ralph Bakshi never finished.
Really?
Yes, there was his theatrical film, released in 1978, 79 maybe, and there were 2 telefilms broadcast on national television. That was The Return of the King and The Hobbit. Of course, they were years apart.
Okay.
That's where I was, my first exposure to those versions of Tolkien.
Generations before me. Not generations.
Oh!
Generation.
Oh,
One.
smack
Singular.
me down. This fool. This fool is trying to make me feel old.
No,
all right?
no. That's why I just never heard of it.
You're so funny. I want to say thank you for getting me a solo cup. What do I owe
Red
you?
Solo Cup. Do you know that song?
The red solo cup? Yes, yeah, the red solo cup. I do.
You owe me nothing.
Help yourself to pizza. Now tell me, what is the name of this fantastic game? And a little bit briefly about the process of getting it published. A little bit about that.
Don't publish through Amazon's CreateSpace. That's the first step. Don't do it. Don't do it.
He's telling you guys. Jean Bourgeois says, LOL, Hunter, a former boyfriend. Oh, well, you know what? The chat just disappeared. I was just about to read. No, we're not talking about D&D. Ellen, we're actually going to be talking about RPGs for just a few minutes, and D&D is a lead-in because it's so heavily influenced by J.R.R. Tolkien. But we will get to some beautiful images and talk about Tolkien as a watercolorist and an artist. But we're talking about his cool original RPG that he self-published.
Well,
It must have taken you a couple of years to put this together.
a couple, yeah. And then I actually lost all the files.
No!
Yeah, I was going to, when I was at Berkeley, studying for my archaeology degree, I like left to go probably do something, go get a slice of pizza, and then I came back and all my files had been corrupted, like in the middle of midterms, and I lost everything.
Oh my gosh.
It was all gone, so I had to retype it, and the whole book, recollect the art from all the artists and everything, reproduce all the gold. Yeah.
Dude.
It was horrible, and I felt so bad for my backers on Kickstarter, but I eventually got everything out to everybody.
Yeah? Well, did it give you a chance to revise some elements?
It did, and actually,
this game?
my roommate was actually an English major, so I kind of pushed it towards him. Said, "Hey, can you edit this, please?"
And what is the name of this game?
It's alliteration heavy. It's called Pasts, Personas, and Prophecies.
Pasts, Personas, and Prophecies. That's right. Hunter Fox, big Tolkien fan, Ringer fan, and he's also with a group of us who love to play Dragon Dice, which is a very fun game we play every week here in Southern California. But tabletop gamers have always gathered around at our Tolkien events. I wish you had had the chance to come to our Bilbo Baggins birthday picnic.
My sister came by.
She did?
My sister did
The
come
one
by.
down in Long Beach?
Yeah.
Your sister came by?
She came by, yeah.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, and
Did I get to meet her?
I don't know, because I called her. I was like, where you at? She's like, oh, I'm going to the picnic. Are you going to meet me there?
Oh,
She's the one that had the car.
She was the one who had the car. Oh, dude. Because, I mean, we had a lot of fans there. They would have loved being introduced to your game.
Oh, thank you.
Pasts, Personas, and Prophecies is a gaming system which was originally concept created, written, and self-published by this guy right here, Hunter Fox, and I wanted to give him the chance to introduce himself to all of you guys. And here we go. And I'm glad that we got that. Yes, hello, sir. Do we have artwork loaded up and ready on the TriCaster? Of course. Now, that was the very next question on my mind. Smart producer. Very good. Live from the chat, we're getting live questions from the production booth. Oh, Cliff, can you still teach me how to play Dragon Dice? Yes, Hannah. Hannah, I can teach you how to play Dragon Dice. And yes, Ellen Design is asking, is Pasts, Pasts, Personas, and Prophecies?
Yes.
Is that available online? Yes. We're going to tell people where to find more details about your game online, where they can investigate it. But the question from our producer is, how do you write an RPG-style game system? How do you begin to write one when these game systems already exist in what you'd call rather codified, official game forms? I mean, you have to develop a combat system. You have to develop a storytelling system that brings both of those chunky things together. Math-based combat system, much more,
the fluff,
the flowing, the talk, the narrative, the speechifying, the storytelling. So how do you put these two brain halves together and make it a playable game?
Well, you get angry about it. That's what I did.
Dude!
I was like, you don't like this game? That's what I said to my ex-girlfriend. I was like, I'm going to fix it, So when you get angry enough, you want to change things, and that's where the inspiration comes from. So I made a spell system that's good for the spell users.
Yes.
And then I had a group of players. And I wanted to answer 3 questions, like, what is your character? Why are they adventuring? What do they love and what do they hate? So I can make it like stories for them. Because I'm all about the story. And only one person in my group actually did it. It was 3 simple questions. So I made a game system that, this is the whole reason why I kind of started it too, was I said I want to make a character creation process that selects those so I can make stories for the players and have a better time at the table.
All right. Professor Tolkien created what in the 1930s with The Hobbit, and he ended up popularizing with The Lord of the Rings about 17 years later what became the ultimate idea in all of our minds, at least in Western fantasy lit, of traveling, the road movie, traveling, battling monsters, and finding treasure as a reward, or finding a reward, okay? Or dealing with a dragon or a boss monster, and then a reward, See? It happened in The Hobbit where they met the trolls. And that was probably the very first time in April 1937 when we got that encounter of fight monsters, they're dead, and then find a rich troll horde
nice
in
swords.
a cave. Find antique elven artifacts, right? Find pieces of history that matter to your narrative. Get it? Nobody had done that stuff before, but it became codified into D20 game systems forever from that simple chapter roast mutton. It really all begins there. And it's just, it's been re-exemplified over and over again. So your approach to this type of game building is to give more background, to give pasts and personalities that are more prevalent in the narrative of the character, and in a future tense, like a prophecy that they have to live into, which will change the course of their gaming events.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Exactly.
Is that right? Okay.
And that's kind of part of the prophecy is, you look at Bilbo Baggins, he starts off and going out on this adventure, and the prophecy is kind of this windy kind of curve thing. So the game system, and the winding curve being that he finds a ring, that wasn't the goal, he was going to be
that
a
was such a level up. That was such a level
yeah.
up, and he didn't know it. At the time, Professor Tolkien literally says in the book The Hobbit, it was quite a turning point in Mr. Baggins' career, although he didn't know it yet.
Exactly.
I love it that he drops that little bomb.
It
Of
was
course, chapters later you figure it out.
It rules his life for the ring rules his life for the remainder of his existence.
And the lives of his blood and kin, and the lives of he loves, of other people that he cares about.
Exactly.
Yes.
Forcing Frodo to go throw it into the lava.
Right.
The fires of Mordor.
So you've made this game and it was published when? This year? 2016?
Oh God, I think it was this summer. Yeah.
This summer?
Maybe June.
Right.
When I graduated from school, I was like, I'm gonna put it out. I'm gonna put a couple weeks in. I'm gonna push it out, and that's what happened. Yeah.
And you had a good support from crowdfunding online.
Yeah, that was the greatest thing. And I had a podcast kind of support me too, called the Order 66 podcast, that kind of inspired some of the ideas.
Order 66.
I had to do it.
Execute Order 66.
I love that guy who plays Palpatine.
Oh yeah.
What's the actor's name? Oh, I know. Come on, Justin, you know. Anyways, Ian McShane? No, not Ian McShane. Although I love him. He played Blackbeard in the Pirates movie, and he played the evil Santa Claus in American Horror Story Asylum. That's Ian McShane.
Okay.
Ian McDiarmid. Thank you. Ian McDiarmid. I love him.
I love how he grew into the role too. He was young as the Emperor and then grew into the prequels. He was the proper age.
Yeah.
He did his whole life.
Super cool. Yeah, I love Ian McDiarmid. He was awesome. I believe Ian McDiarmid also had an important small role in Dragon Slayer. Remember Dragon Slayer from the early 80s?
I think I've heard of it.
Yep. I think Ian McDiarmid plays the priest who tries to convert the village from paganism to Christianity. And then the dragon just barbecues him. Vermithrax.
Avidasin.
Yeah, Alfidacin. Vermithrax pejorative. What a great dragon. Anyways, okay, so this is really, really cool to actually have you here with us. Justin, if you're backstage and you're ready to start throwing some of these images up on our blue screen, we're going to start talking about some of these watercolors and images. Ah, there you go. This is a doorway into the conversation. This is the perfect place to begin. I'm going to duck out of the frame for just a little bit. Do you guys recognize what this is? Do you guys recognize what that is? Turn, you see what that is, don't you?
Oh, God.
That is the original book cover to The Hobbit from the 1930s. And that book cover, that's the dust jacket cover. If you look right here on the outside border, see these notes here, guys? Yeah, there's notes right here. And you don't have to move, Hunter.
Okay.
Because if you sit where you are and point beyond your shoulder, see those margins on your side? Those are notes. And if you're looking here, folks, these are notes right here. Handwritten notes from Professor Tolkien himself, because this was his design and his artwork at his publisher's request. Professor Tolkien was asked by his publisher, oh, you can make some watercolors? Well, then why don't you deliver us maybe, 7 or 8 prints, maybe 6 or 7 prints, and we'll put them in the book, So this was one of the first things. There's that dragon, this really unique dragon design. I'm going to point to it. It's right here. See this guy? This dragon, Smaug? He's on the back cover of the book, but when I get out of the frame and when I get out of the way, you can see the symmetry of this design. The spine of the book is the path from the Elven King's halls. And this is all Mirkwood Forest right here. And in the distance, in the far, far distance, that's the Lonely Mountain. There it is. That's the Lonely Mountain. And this is all J.R.R. Tolkien's design. It has an incredible symmetry, which you don't notice until you take it off of the book and unfold it. And there it is. See, that's it. Good. Yeah, take me out. That's right, Justin. Take us out. This is all Justin. Well, hold on. Well, I guess you took me out and you took out the background. Well, he's going to bring it back. There it is. See, there it is. See, the simple black, dark blue, and green were the only colors. This is only a 3-color process. On the far outside, I'm glad we're zooming in, on the far outside of the border, yeah, there's Lake Town. See? Yeah, you can see Lake Town in that design.
I've never noticed that, actually.
That's Lake Town right there.
This is
See
the
it?
cover on the book I read.
Yeah, that is Lake Town. There it is, on the surface of Long Lake, after you've left the Elven King's halls, and the path leads right up to the Lonely Mountain. But if you kindly move over to the far edges, the outside edge, you will see dwarven inscriptions. There they are. See the dwarven inscriptions? It says, The Hobbit, or There and Back Again. I could read these. It's not in Dwarvish. It's actually a transliteration. Not a translation, but a transliteration from English. So that's English text, and those are some of Professor Tolkien's own handwritten notes on some of the comments he's getting from his publisher and some of his comments back on what he wants to change and on the final draft of that. That is the dust cover jacket. That is Professor Tolkien's own design. It's one of the first things that we're going to look at. We have many other pieces of art to look at. You knew that Professor Tolkien was a watercolor artist?
No.
He had all this experience under his belt. He drew his own maps for his own books. And in some cases, most famously, in the case of The Return of the King, which was the 3rd and final volume, Professor Tolkien caused very long publishing delays because he didn't get things fixed to his own satisfaction. And he kept writing these apology letters to his publisher. Oh, I'm sorry. Shit. I'm sorry. I can't seem to get my notes in order. I've got Hobbit genealogies. I've got the family trees of the House of Eorl and all the ancestors of Rohan, and I've got these family trees and these notes in the back and a Shire calendar. I can't seem to get the moon phases right, but I want to make sure that I get the phases of the moon right because I'm transposing a Gregorian calendar into a Middle-earth calendar, and the heavenly bodies move like this. And so that was where Tolkien's brain was at. It was exploding with minutia.
It was the details.
Yeah, and as they say in the newspaper business, the devil's in the details. So he delayed turning in his appendices, which would delay the actual publication date of The Return of the King.
Not the actual content of the book.
The content of the book was done, but he was trying to revise final notes that would be in the appendix and maps. And then he decided, oh, damn it. And he had his son Christopher help him redo maps much, much later on, which became a great help to him. Mm-hmm. Christopher helped his father in his old age. But take a look at this map. This map was not drawn by... this is actually Christopher Tolkien's map, okay? And on it, I think if you look really closely, there are some scratches and annotations from Tolkien himself. So this was the 2-color red letter edition. It's referred to by most fans commonly as the red letter edition. Usually that's when you're talking about a Bible, a special edition of the Bible that has red print for, what is meant to be divine spoken words.
Okay.
That's a red letter edition of a Bible. But this red letter edition of the map of Middle-earth was done by Christopher Tolkien. It has his initials on it. But his father got his hands on it much, much closer to the end of his life than could ever be remembered. And there's his father's notations on things he wants to change. Yep, there it is. Justin, I'm so glad you found it. There's Professor Tolkien making comments and emendations, dude, on what he wants to change. There it is. All right. Yes. Hello, Catherine. Catherine Nicholson Love. Yes, we love this too. And glad to have you guys with us on the live chat in Facebook. And there's Pete Northrunner. In the 1990s, he says in the chat room, I was delving I was delivering milk to daycare in Harlem, and a sweet 4-year-old little black girl asked to find new Mariah Carey. She was such a little angel. She also stole my heart. Oh, really? Well, yeah, back in the 90s. Okay, you guys are having a little trip down memory lane, talking about something else entirely. I'm talking about, maps of Middle Earth, and you guys are talking about your past famous career. Pete, you have quite an interesting checkered past, do you not? Once I figured out what the Dwarven runes meant, someone was saying in the live chat, no, I can't read the chat because every few seconds it keeps rotating up. If you want to get interactive with us, guys, we do have a live hotline. There's that number floating across my head. It is a hotline where you can call us, bring your questions and your comments to the chat room. You're here with Hunter Fox, tabletop game designer, and of course your amiable host, Clifford Broadway from theonering.net. And the hotline number is area code 530-64-FRODO. That's 530-64-FRODO. For Frodo.
You laid claim to that one?
Yeah, for Frodo. Yes. So, yeah, so what's really cool is to understand Professor Tolkien's mind as a linguist, as a creative force, as a writer, is to not understand him fully. He was also a visual artist. And I'm glad you guys are joining us live on Torn Tuesday. It's really excellent to have all of you guys here, especially a big shout out hello to Ellen Design. And sorry, are we having a video feed drop? We don't have any technical issues here on this end so far, but there's Marfles, Hannah, Ellen, Pete, there's Northrunner. We have a variety of people in our live chat. And if you have questions or comments, look, we're getting actual comments on the chat line. I love Dungeons & Dragons. I played it many times back in the early 80s. Yes, I did too. What's really exciting to me, getting back on the subject of RPGs, our boy Tom DeSanto, who is a very, very big-name executive producer of motion pictures, he made a few little films called The Transformers. He made a couple of little films with Michael Bay you may have heard of. He also made a little documentary film called Ringer's Lord of the Fans that he made with me, my documentary. And Tom DeSanto also made the first 2 X-Men films with Bryan Singer, starting off the X-Men franchise. But just heard in the Hollywood Reporter a few days ago that the estate of Gary Gygax, the surviving estate of Gary Gygax, including his wife and his family, have sat down to strike a big contract Hollywood deal with my executive producer who works with me on my stuff. Tom DeSanto is now in a new deal to produce all kinds of new stuff from the unwritten, unpublished materials of Gary Gygax, the co-designer and co-creator of the original Dungeons & Dragons.
Yeah, these gonna be D&D movies, or what is this?
Maybe, but there's a lot of fantasy worlds that have not been introduced to the public. Yes.
Right.
So the answer is yes, and then some. You know what I mean?
Very
the answer
cool.
is no, because it's more, all right? Now, it's one thing to have gotten a licensing deal to develop and publish entertainment properties from Dungeons & Dragons, but Gary Gygax was responsible for many, many other unpublished things that we haven't even gotten our eyes on yet, but they're fantasy worlds that we're going to explore. It's going to be so cool. And when that news hit me, I was, like I'm always reading the trades. I read Daily Variety every damn day. That's my business. That's what I do. Sorry. Most people are reading the Wall Street Journal or whatever, but I'm reading Variety. That's my business. So when I found out that my boy Tom, and I'm currently, working with him on developing a new project, you're going to hear about it soon. It's very exciting. Yes, we're writing and making a new project. We're going to tell you all about it when we can tell you all about it. But when Tom said, oh yeah, Gary Gygax and his wife, they're fantastic. Now, even though he's gone, his legacy runs deeper and stronger than you know. It wasn't just Dungeons & Dragons. He had his hand in creating some other marvelous properties. And so soon, that's right. That's right. Oh, cool. Thank you, Ellen.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. We're going to be making an announcement with Tom DeSanto, and he's going to be making his own independent announcements of unpublished Gary Gygax game and fantasy materials, which could end up in the realm of animation or television or video games. We don't know where we'll
Very
end up yet.
cool.
Yeah, it is super cool.
I like all of that.
You know, you've got your roots down in this history. You love Gary Gygax, and I love all those years he showed up as a character on Futurama. It was always always great to have him there with our our boys, with Leela and
Have you read of Dyson
Fry. Of Dyson Men?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the Gary Gygax lore, but I didn't know about that stuff, to be honest.
Eye-opening, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yes, it's super cool. Okay, now, this is where we stop getting the conversation derailed. I just wanted to say there's lots of excitement in the air. One of my favorite things to look back on are this series of watercolors that we're going to go through right now. This is Rivendell, but this is not the way that Weta and all the design team in New Zealand imagined Rivendell. You can take us out for just a second, Justin. You can remove the two of us. This is Rivendell the way that Professor Tolkien envisioned it. Yep, see? There's the stairs coming down where they find their way into the hidden valley. There's the path. Yep, exactly. Very good. And then they'd find their little way across that footbridge and into the last homely house. That's what Professor Tolkien called it, the last homely house east of the sea. Because you couldn't go any further east of the sea and find any dwellings of the elven kingdoms that were that notable. Lothlorien was like a secret enclave where they just kind of stopped time and let everything be embalmed, like they would just stop time and slow things down, and everything in Lothlorien was like a different type of a head trip, and it was like one of the metaphysical problems that the elves had in Lothlorien, that Galadriel was using her ring to not let time advance, but to suppress the advancement of natural time. And everything in Lothlorien seemed to be slower. That's why when Peter Jackson shot the film, when they have all those scenes in Lothlorien, everything and everybody seems to be walking slower. You noticed? You noticed it?
Yeah.
Yeah, everything in Lothlorien, but that is a deliberate and almost unnoticeable thematic cohesion with the original book that most of us don't notice, but hardcore fans like me will tell you that in Lothlorien it was considered by Tolkien a metaphysical problem. It was a sin that they were not leaving Middle-earth to go to Valinor. They were instead trying to recreate their own miniature pockets of Valinor instead of going and leaving Middle-earth to go to the real Valinor where they were supposed to go.
Right.
And so it was a sin or a problem that the elves who were beckoned to come to Valinor refused. And they decided to stay in Middle-earth. And that's also one of the thematic problems of Arwen making the choice to abandon her immortality for the love of this mortal man, Aragorn, who would become later King Elisar after the War of the Ring, as you guys know. But
Turn the king.
of course. But this place, Rivendell, one of the most amazing and impressive places where you read the book and you just think, I want to live there, I want to go there. As Tolkien says in the story, just to be there was a cure for weariness and for what illness you had. Just to be there and to breathe the fresh air and to be in this wonderful place. And in this kind of beautiful pastel, kind of way of looking at it in the 1930s. Yep.
It's much more humble, more modest, I feel like, than the concept from the Peter Jackson movies.
Yeah, but it is like a completely you can see how easily defensible this place is to military incursion because it is hidden in the valley, in the ravine, actually. Yep, Rivendell. Look at the design. Look at those soft watercolors that Tolkien has. The flowers, the little elements everywhere, the little decorative elements. He was very, very, very good at what he was doing. He knew proportion, he knew decoration, he knew elements of late 19th century painting. He had no training, he had no formal training. He just picked up a watercolor brush and did it himself.
And just the detail, I mean, it's so ridiculous. I would have a huge headache, man.
Let's move on to do we have the one with the eagles, or do we have the one with the mountain path? After Rivendell, there were other images that became very, very well known because they showed the path of Thorin and company. Oh, look, this is Fangorn Forest. All right, we've jumped out of the Hobbit and we've gone straight to Fangorn. Hey, there's Thror's map. Ah, yes, that is in the top. That's Bag End, over hill, beyond the water. And at the bottom of this screen, there's the old mill the mill at the water. Yep, there you go. There's Bag End, the ancestral home of the Baggins family. And below that, there's Bagshot Row, 1, 2, and 3. Those 3 little, yeah, there they go. 1, 2, and 3. And that furthest one on the outside left of your screen, ladies and gentlemen, that is the home of the Gamgee family. Number 3, Bagshot Row. That is where Gaffer Gamgee and his son, Samwise Gamgee, lived with the fam. And after the scouring of the Shire, you see some of these buildings that we're looking at right now? These were the buildings that were taken over by Sharky's men in the chapter, The Scouring of the Shire, at the end of The Lord of the Rings. Really impressive denouement that happens in the book that never, ever happened in the films. The films do not have that...
Take over the Shire.
Where Saruman goes and takes over the Shire. Remember that in the book?
Yeah.
All right, we've got... Oh, we almost had a caller on the hotline. Sorry, you know. Watch live now. Not love. Watch live now. Auto spell check. It's a 90-minute show. Yes, guys, listen to me. It's a 90-minute show. So here it is. All right. Wedda's Rivendell was amazing. Yes, Diane. We're looking at our live chatter in the Facebook chat. Diane says, Wedda's Rivendell was amazing. I was like, wow, when I first saw it on screen. And I have to say, what I liked most about it was the addition of all the water elements. There were waterfalls everywhere. And then they made these, like, buttresses that went over waterfalls and little pathways that went around waterfalls and let them have a dip to go under. And then it was so cool.
Yeah.
That was the cool thing, to have all those cool waterways added into Wedda's design for Rivendell. But you're right in your observation, Hunter, that Professor Tolkien's more simplified, more rustic, you know, and more unassuming version of Rivendell. Yeah, that was the version of Rivendell that all the rockers were thinking of when they wrote those songs in the 70s. It's true. It's true. I mean, Rivendell ended up becoming a song by Rush. When Geddy Lee was 19 or 20 years old, he told me this in an interview.
Really?
Yeah, I interviewed you haven't seen my documentary. Okay.
No.
In Ringer's Lord of the Fans, we interview everybody from the top down, like director Cameron Crowe, you know, who made Almost Famous. You know, and he was married to, you know, Nancy Wilson from Heart, you know. So he's like, you should come up and talk to my wife about the connection between, Tolkien and all the rock music, because my wife, Nancy, is totally into all this stuff, you know. And I'm like, I love Heart, and I love Anne and Nancy Wilson. And we talked to David Carradine, we talked to Clive Barker, we interviewed famous British fantasy novelist Terry Pratchett, may he rest in peace. We've got some great interviews with everybody. But when we talked to Geddy Lee, boy, was I over the moon.
Right.
Because we got this great footage of Rush live on stage, and he explained to me the concept of writing that song Rivendell. And he was like, well, you know, we were kids. He's so soft-spoken, and he's so Canadian, you know. Geddy Lee is so Canadian and so
Extremely
soft-spoken.
nice.
So truly, and he's like, he's like, he's like this. We were 20. We were 19. He's like, and he giggled and he got red in the face and he's like, you do the math. And we just wanted to write this lovely, soft little song that made you feel like you were in this peaceful place, this beautiful, peaceful place. And then we got to license the song. They let us license the music for nothing because they love Tolkien so much. In fact,
sharing the love.
Led Zeppelin, when we reached out to Robert Plant and his team, they let us license Ramble On for our film.
Way.
Yes. And we were, at the time, we were the only independent filmmakers in the history of filmmaking who had ever licensed a Led Zeppelin song. Straight from them.
There you go.
You didn't know that, did you? Yeah, you learn something every day. But it wasn't licensed for the DVD version. It was only for the festival version. So you won't find it on the DVD copy. But when we do public exhibitions at film festivals, then we play the original print that has the original Led Zeppelin song in it. So, yes. Now, this one is my favorite. This is my personal favorite. Going back to the story of The Hobbit, Justin, you could take all of us out of this picture. This is where Bilbo and Gandalf and the dwarves meet the great eagle, the Wind Lord.
Well, after having their bacon saved.
Yeah, save their bacon, exactly. Out of the frying pan, into the fire,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Yeah, it's a good bacon joke. That's exactly what this is. See, this is where Bilbo, there he is. There's Bilbo, tiny Bilbo, just getting up from his dizziness and realizing, oh shit, wow, this is the Lord of the Eagles, and they were up in their eyrie. Okay, it's called an eyrie. That's where eagles live, up in the crags, high up in the Misty Mountains. And there it is. Bilbo woke with the early sun in his eyes. That's Professor Tolkien. That's his own typography. That's his own hand script. And these are Tolkien's original color plates that he made for one of the first editions there. And that's his monogram. Yes! You can always recognize J.R.R. Tolkien because he made that unique monogram with the J and the 2 R's and the T. That's his monogram.
I love that little flavor he put at the bottom of every illustration, you know? Things at the side, little annotations.
His monogram is actually on the side, on the spine of many nicer editions of the books, the hardcovers at least. Yeah, the mountains in the distance. Now, keep in mind when you look at these watercolors, look at the clouds and the mist and the way that eagle looks. Get in on that eagle, Justin. It looks fantastic. Yeah, this is Professor Tolkien, who never once had an art class. Never once had an art class. He's just so cool, so impressive. And hey, you know our buddy Uriah?
Yeah.
Uriah plays Dragon Dice with us. He just got hired by Wizards of the Coast to be a new painter and artist for Magic the Gathering card games. And he currently is well known to Lord of the Rings fans as one of the featured artists on Fantasy Flight Lord of the Rings, the living card game. That's right. And I buy those booster card packs.
Oh, you do?
I love the living card game of LOTR. It's a hard game to play, but it is fun. It's fun, but it's a challenging game. So our buddy Uriah, he's just texting me. He's like, really? I can come on the show? I'm totally encouraging him as a published fantasy artist. And for somebody who's a published fantasy game designer, you guys are my friends. And of course, you're making your imprint in the world of sci-fi and fantasy on your own. So of course, you're my welcome guest here all the time. Hunter Fox is here with us, ladies and gentlemen. And we're taking an exploration of some of Tolkien's remarkable watercolor works. Justin, let's move on to the next one. We've got Lake Town to look at. We've got the Mountain Path, which was so famous as the hardcover for the Silmarillion. The Silmarillion was published a few years after Tolkien's death in the 70s, and it featured a major piece of art that Tolkien had used for The Hobbit all those years prior.
Okay.
Yes, and if Justin finds it, I love that he had no biology training, and he knew how to draw and paint an eagle so perfectly.
Anatomy.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. A perfect eagle from Professor Tolkien, who painted this beautiful creature without any formal experience or any formal painters, classes, or art training, or biology training. And he's just fantastic. Eravandi says in the live chat, I wish I could get good enough to draw my own characters. I can just barely draw other people's. Yeah, I know, it's true. Now, it's funny to think, I have abandoned any effort at becoming a great mathematician. It's difficult enough to play Dragon Dice, where I have to do simple algebraic equations of A plus B minus C.
You impress me doing it. You're counting up the dice. I can't do it. You're fast.
I know how to do it, but yeah, thank you, guys. Just pierce through the fog, right? Shut up, you know. But the fact is that Professor Tolkien was busy inventing languages, inventing alphabets to support the language stems, then inventing a 9,000-year history of geography, lands, migrations of peoples, and developmental, civilizations where his languages would have a place to live. Then beyond creating a world where his languages would have to live, he went and created the bloody maps and the family trees and the genealogies.
And he wrote the books, of course.
And you believe it? And after writing all these stories, Professor Tolkien went and did this and started to create these. Now, this was a dust jacket design. I believe it was a discarded dust jacket design for The Hobbit. The one that was used in favor of this one was the one we started showing near half an hour ago that had the blue and green mountains and that beautiful symmetry. But if you take a look, you can see the dragon, Smaug. There he is. Oh, no, it's not. This is not a dust jacket design from The Hobbit. That is Glaurung. Glaurung from the Silmarillion. Glaurung sets forth. This is an illustration from the Silmarillion itself. All right, I was mistaken in what I was saying a second ago. And it's not the first time I would have been slightly mistaken. But this is so super cool, dude. Glaurung. Professor Tolkien. Now, you know what I find most interesting? the trees. You see the burnt and destroyed trees?
Yeah.
See the tree stumps, the charred brack, the charred bracken
Beyond the water.
of those tree stumps
Yeah.
beyond the water. But then look at, and the one right next to him is burned, with only a few leaves left. And there's ones that are burned next to him, and there's some that haven't been burned yet, and they still have like a red outward. Yeah, there's Glaurung coming forth from his cave. Totally cool stuff. This is totally cool. I love the details, because the closer you look at these details, the more you'll realize that there's this real charming quality, and there's an innocence. There's a real innocence to how Tolkien visualized his own, wilderness landscapes, his own ecosystems, his own dragons.
Right.
It's just so cool. Whimsical, 1930s, very 1930s, very whimsical. Style of fantasy art would not change and become so driven by realism and lighting effects and Photoshop effects until a century later, okay? Maybe 80 years later after this. But at the time, these were the very first visualizations of Beleriand and the spirits of the Maiar, Sauron, and the entities who are spoken of in the Silmarillion.
The beginning song.
Yeah, and the beginning song of creation. These elements that we're looking at here is the very first time any of these were visualized, before the brothers Hildebrandt, before Darrell K. Sweet, before Alan Lee and John Howe, generations later, would become inspired, and before all the artists that Ralph Bakshi hired to work on his animation team. I swear to you, you have such a journey to explore if you haven't seen Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings film. Oh my gosh, you have so much to explore. This is so cool. And yeah, you see the tiny little details on there, the little flowers on that bush right over Glaurung's cave. This is super coolness. I love it. Justin, let's move on and take a look at some other things.
You know what this reminds me of? Of old manuscripts from the Bible, like what the monks used to do in their monasteries. The illustrations they would do within the Bibles.
Yep.
It's the same kind of style.
Illuminating the text.
Illuminating
the text, yes. Ivan in the chat room says, I'm sorry, but what documentary are you talking about? Ivan, my friend, we were taking a moment to speak about Ringers, Lord of the Fans. It was a movie that I wrote and, co-wrote and produced with my good friends Carlene Cordova, and it was directed by Carlene, and it was written by myself and co-written by her, and it was produced by the Transformers and X-Men film franchise executive producer Tom DeSanto. And you can't find it right now. The reason why is because we made a picture deal with Sony. Sony distributed our film for 10 years, but that expired. And they had it on Netflix and the iTunes store, and they had it on cable and television all around the world in every country on Earth. And it was on DVD in every country in the land.
Except North Korea.
Except North Korea. Except North Korea. However, North Korea, when they hacked Sony, they hacked our files and got access to our... Yep, they did. It's funny you should mention the North Korea as a side joke, because it is actually uncomfortably close to the truth. It's true. When Kim Jong-un and his creepy little army of minions hacked into Sony, they got access to my documentation, and they found out how much I was paid, and they found out how much the deal was for licensing my movie, but I don't give a shit. I really don't care.
Little do
I
you
don't care
know,
anymore.
they did it for you
They
specifically.
didn't do anything. They didn't do me any favors. But anyways, the licensing deal expired, and now the actual rights to distribute the film are back in my hands. And so we made an announcement at San Diego Comic-Con. If you guys weren't there, I'm just letting you know, Ivan, at San Diego Comic-Con we made a reference to Ringer's Lord of the Fans, and we're going to redistribute that film later on this year on Amazon Prime and on Vimeo Pro and other distribution outlets, because we're going to repackage it and redistribute the film, and you guys can be able to see it very soon enough. Now, let's take a look at what's on our green screen. Look at this, the Escape by the Barrels. This beautiful artwork is where Bilbo has, excuse me, this is where Bilbo has managed to engineer, or you could say backwards engineer, an unusual escape program for Thorin and company by getting them into those empty barrels and go down the river leading from the forest gate down to where they bump into Long Lake. And this beautiful watercolor painting was used and became very familiar in the Ballantine Books paperback edition that was published in the 60s and 70s. And in the 70s, that was my book. I had my hands on The Hobbit. This was my cover. And look, there's the huts. The raft elves were responsible for helping to gather together the barrels. It wasn't a wild chase sequence with a bunch of orcs jumping at you, going boo.
That's Hollywood.
And big old Bomber getting this outrageous, wild physical, stunt that he did. That's not what happened. In the book, you remember, they just calmly, quietly float down the river, and they get collected by the raft elves and bundled together. No, go back, Justin. Go back to Lake Town.
Well, that's a better way of leaving Mirkwood than dealing with the spiders.
Yeah, dealing with or with a Balg coming after you.
Yeah.
And eventually they arrive here, and you know that this was one of the first images of Lake Town that anybody ever had. If you couldn't visualize, and I can't imagine why not, but if Professor Tolkien's remarkable language could not explain to you what his world looked like, well, by Jove, he would paint the damn thing, and he would show you what his world looked like. There's Lake Town. An entire city, an entire town lifted up on the surface of the water on all those piers. It's like the ultimate Santa Monica Pier.
Yeah.
I always thought of Lake Town as the ultimate Santa Monica
That's
Pier.
exactly what I was thinking, to be
Yeah,
honest.
isn't it cool? I'm like, I want to get on the rides down at the end of the pier. I want to ride the Ferris wheel, and all the little fun rides. There's a mini roller coaster at the end of the pier at Lake Town. Did you know that? Is it Bruna? Bruna in the Facebook chat says, every time I think about all the dedication, time, imagination, and work there is in the Middle-earth and its story, it makes me admire Professor Tolkien so much more. He was an absolute genius. And yes, you're right, Bruna. I could not have said it better myself. I 110% agree. And now look at this. Look at this gorgeousness. This, beautiful. Is this the Lonely Mountain? Justin, let's move in on this, and let's take a look at the caption. Because you see some influences in here with the shading that starts to look like Professor Tolkien was anticipating what some of the artists would do in the 60s.
I was going to say it looks like an album cover from the 60s or 70s.
Totally looks like like Yes. Anderson, Buford, Wakeman, and Howe, right? That's most of Yes.
Yeah.
I love John Anderson. Love Yes, and I love prog rock in general. I know I'm talking about Rush and Led Zeppelin and all this dad rock. Well, excuse me. It's dad rock. It's awesome. If you guys don't know what dad rock is, let me Google that for you.com. Dad rock. All right. I'm just being so stupid now.
That's the first time I've heard that term.
Really? You've never heard it called dad rock?
No.
No. So for people of your generation who are like, oh, what are you listening to this? What is it? Billy Joel or whatever.
Blue Oyster Cult or
Gordon
something.
Gordon Lightfoot. You're listening to Gordon Lightfoot or whatever. We're joking about Yes right now.
Right.
Okay. Oh, well, it's totally like dad rock. You're like, yes. Anyways, let's zoom in on this. I know we don't have a script, and that's why we have fun on this show. Okay. Oh, Penny. I love you, Penny. Penny Young in the live chat says, I have an extra copy of Ringers, Kay. All right. Ooh. Hey, Kay. That's amazing. It's hard to get on DVD because there aren't any more DVDs being published or made by Sony. We're going to redistribute the film, in a few months, hopefully.
And it's exclusively digital, then.
And it will be an exclusive digital. But remember, when we made the film and released it, it was in standard def. So what we're doing right now is we're trying to up-res a lot of the files and export it in high def so that it can at least look a bit different than the original format. Because 12 years ago when we released it, it was in standard def. But again, back to Professor Tolkien's artwork, before I get totally derailed again. This is one of my favorite things. This is something I want to zoom in on. I want to see if Justin can zoom in on it. Yeah, Justin, zoom in on that. I want to get real close on that. No, don't move it aside. There you go. There you go, buddy. Yeah, look at this. Let's read the caption first. Let's read the caption at the bottom. And I just love these details. This is the Misty Mountains, looking west from the Erie towards Goblin Gate. That's what it is, okay? So, the Eagles rescued Thorin and company, and Gandalf, out of the burning pine trees in that breathtaking sequence that happens in the film. But when they flew to the Eagles' Eyrie, it was not so far away. They were still within the Misty Mountain range. They hadn't left the immediate vicinity of the range. And so, Professor Tolkien described what the view was like from that position, and he decided to paint it. So that's what that is. Looking from the Eagles' Eyrie, may your Ares receive you at the journey's end, was the dialogue of Gwahir, the Wind Lord. Remember Gwahir, the Lord of the Eagles? And you can see eagles. Yeah, look at that. There's just always eagles flying around. They were the messengers of Manwë. Manwë, who was one of the head guys in Valinor. He was one of the Valar, right? And the eagles were supposed to be his emissaries and his watchmen. And when they appeared in the story at the Battle of the Five Armies, and when they appeared again at the end, at the battle outside the Black Gate, at the end of the War of the Ring, they were meant to signify an interference of the powers of Valinor, which is something they generally had stepped back and they refused to do.
They're kind of Switzerland, but
yeah,
just one in a
yeah,
sense.
total Switzerland. Step back, let them deal with their own ish. But when the eagles appear, they are direct harbingers of him, of Manwë, the great spirit from Valinor, and they are his emissaries. They are representative of him as well. Hey, if you have questions, join Hunter Fox, D20 awesome dude, RPG game designer, all-around cool rocker dude here in Los Angeles, and me, your amiable host, Clifford Broadway. I'm here with you every Tuesday. We don't always get special guests on our show, so if you have any questions for our RPG designer, send them to 530-6-4 FRODO. Here it is. This is the one I've been waiting for. This is the image that everybody associates as the cover of the Silmarillion, because the first edition hardcovers that came out in 1977 had this on the cover. But this is actual artwork from The Hobbit that Professor Tolkien had done many, many years earlier.
Is this before they're abducted by the goblins?
This is before they see the stone giants hurling pieces of the mountain at each other.
Playing games.
Yeah, playing games. Throwing pieces of the mountain like a football at each other.
Yeah.
You know, and for Peter Jackson, it was like a 10-minute action sequence. For Professor Tolkien, it was one throwaway line of dialogue. You know that. That's what you get. But take a close look at that, guys. What's cool about this, the coolest thing about it, is Professor Tolkien's use of the negative space, where he lets the luminosity of the lightning bolt coming from the mountain storm, it is only that luminous because it is the absence of his line work. It's hard-edged line work, and when he found a negative space, it's just so cool. For me, the lazy way to do it would be to take white paint and a blow dryer and go and blow the air and let the white paint trickle and fork out.
Very natural effect.
To make it, yeah, that's what I would do. Let the paint do the work. I would let gravity and other wind effects, like me going, blowing on the canvas. But Professor Tolkien did it the hard way. So get real close in on that, Justin, as far as you get, because I really, really dig this. This is our artist technique, which is called using the negative space, and it's also something that you would have noticed was perfected by the woodcuts of Gustave Doré. Now, you know Gustave Doré. He did those famous woodcuts of the Rime of the Ancient Mariner and Dante's Inferno. Yeah,
Okay.
all those big, beautiful books. Sometimes they were leather bound, and they were like as huge as like a Taschen coffee table book. They were huge. And inside, you're like, oh, the Divine Comedy. What a ponderous thing. You get in there and you're looking at it. Oh, geez, it's Gustave Doré's woodcuts, where it was all about the negative space, because everything that he was doing was carved on wood to be printed on ink on paper later on.
Like Goya.
Yep.
Yeah.
So everything that was cut out of the wood would become non-colored. It would become white. So, the deeper you dug with your wood, the larger areas of lightness and whiteness. And Gustave Doré learned how to do that to manipulate light and shadow in his woodcuts.
Glorified stamp.
Absolutely, the ultimate glorified stamp. And Professor Tolkien does it so perfectly, the way you're looking at it right here, just as if he were a master crafts carver like Gustave Doré. This is Tolkien using the negative space, and there's just hard horizontal lines through the mountains, and then they change colors to become part of the sky. And Justin, if you do us a big favor and move this image even further down, there we go. This is just supposed to be his representation of the difficult mountain path that was taken by Thorin and company as they made their way east of Rivendell, their first attempt to go over the high pass over the Misty Mountains.
And how dire the fall would be.
Yeah, look at that. I'm going to get out of the shot. I'm just going to get out of the shot for one quick second. Or Justin, we'll stay in the shot. You just take us out. Take us out real quick. Just take a look at how cool the line work is. Professor Tolkien, you have my admiration. Yeah, you have my admiration. That portrait is just a masterpiece of mood. No horses, no people, no wizards, no grand Balrogs, no dramatic dun-dun-dun. It's just the composition of the wilderness. It's just called the mountain path. It is deceptively simple, but there's a lot of complexity in the image that Professor Tolkien has made. And you just feel like you're going further and further into this dark, stormy night. I love it. Yep. Stephanie in the live chat says, I'm currently getting a piece of custom jewelry made by the wonderful folks at Weta Workshop. Nice. Whoa. You should send us photos. I would like to see any custom-made jewelry or custom-made artwork by any of those people. They're absolutely fantastic. I love the folks at Weta. And when they were putting together their design team to work on first Rings trilogy and then, of course, Hobbit trilogy, they took their offices and put all of Tolkien's artwork all around them, and a lot of other famous artists. But they started with the best. They started with the beginning. Here you go. Is this the Lonely Mountain? Yeah, this is an early version of the Lonely Mountain. Remember all those long shots in the Battle of the Five Armies? Remember all those shots of the area where the arms of the Lonely Mountain jut out to the southeast and to the southwest. And within the arms of it, that's where the Great Gate of Erebor stands,
right,
with the dwarves on each side. And the river, the running river, comes out from the gate and goes to the city of Dale, which was just this close. The city of Dale, which was the first thing destroyed by the dragon Smaug when he approached, just this far away. They're like looking at each other. And this was Tolkien's first idea of that layout. Ravenhill, which is also featured prominently in Battle of the Five Armies. Ravenhill, there it is. That's it, on the left. This is Ravenhill, right here. It is not like with the frozen waterfall and this watchtower at the top of it.
Okay.
There may have been some edifice, a watchtower of some kind that Tolkien mentioned, but in his original illustrations, this was Tolkien's vision of how the running river would come out of the main gate. And they extrapolated this geography based upon Thror's map and based upon these images. And I love the simplicity of Tolkien's colors. I love his color palette. This is...
Keeps the hue very similar.
There's the ruins of Dale. See this right here? This is the ruins of the city of Dale, right? So you guys are looking at what Professor Tolkien created in 1937 would eventually be that very important geography that Peter Jackson had to build with, an outsized miniature, and he had to build it, have his digital artists inspect it, scan it, and recreate it and render it so that every stage of story, narrative, combat between different groups with the appearance of one army or the appearance of the next army, they all were derived from this extrapolation, from Professor Tolkien's layout. This is where they knew where to physically put things. And everything, of course, matches the text.
Great.
Matches his description.
So this is basically the blueprint for everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
But this is the first time that anybody on Earth had ever done a visualization of the Hobbit. And there, look at that. Smaug the Golden. That's right, Justin. I'm glad that my producer is backstage moving in on these images. Isn't this fantastic?
Thank you.
Look, Professor Tolkien put this really cool Smaug the Golden, all pissed off, looking around for, I know there's dwarves around here somewhere, and he ends up eating all their ponies. Their ponies panic and run off into the distance, and Smaug destroys the poor beasts, and the dwarves feel bad about that. And this is before Smaug flies even further down after his conversation with Bilbo and attacks Esgaroth on the Long Lake, which is the name for Lake Town. Hey, Spirited Book, did you join? I hope you're here. Hello, Pippin, Stephanie, Diane, Northron or Eravandi, and Young Whippersnapper 66. They're all here live in the chat room. If you have any questions, send us a question or a comment on the live chat. And if you want to be on Skype, or if you want to be oh wow, we have 10 minutes left on the show. We have 10 minutes left on this show, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, Jamie, you want to crash the show? No? Want a slice of pizza?
Grabbing my charger.
No? You're just grabbing your charger?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
I don't know nearly enough to be in this category.
Really?
No.
Well, if there was ever a pro wrestling crossover with J.R.R. Tolkien,
If only.
if only we'd have to build a show around it.
That's a board game waiting to come out.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude. Oh, gosh.
Leave
That's...
you nerd alone.
All right, yeah, I know. Nerd. I know, nerds. Hashtag nerd time. Hashtag never nerd alone. That's hilarious. So how do I contact you guys through Skype? Oh, well, hey, we're on Skype as Barlaman Butterbur. That's our nickname, but the actual account name is The One Ring Net. You can always find us on Twitter, Twitch, Ustream, Facebook, Skype, all of the above as The One Ring Net. That's where you can find us. Obviously, our main website, where our community has been for about 18 years, is theonering.net. So let me turn on my tablet and see if we can get, where's my tablet? See if I can get my tablet here. And that way, we can have at least a couple of calls. You know who likes to call in? All of our fans from the United Kingdom love to call in on Skype.
Across the pond.
All of our British fans from across the pond, because it saves them phone calls. It's, they don't have to do the international call thing. So let me just turn on my my handy dandy rust bucket of a Samsung. Glad it's not blowing up on me. Glad it's not blowing up on you too, Clifford.
Have you,
I can't believe it. Their replacement phones are blowing up.
Oh,
Can you
yeah.
believe that? Like, Samsung, WTF?
Get it together.
WTF, man? Anyways, now we're looking at beautiful artwork. Look at all these. We're doing a quick review of all of these maps, dust jackets, book covers, book plates, illustrations. There's an early illustration of the Dark Tower that Tolkien did. That might be an early illustration of Orthanc, if I'm not mistaken. Is that Orthanc or is that the Dark Tower? Let's zoom in on that. Can't read it.
I think off at the right, it looks like it's on the precipice of a cliff.
Oh, Tolkien's handwriting is really... I'm sorry to do that. Didn't mean to yawn, but... Gosh, it's getting rather warm and stuffy in here.
Well, Clifford, you're in here.
Yeah. I'm too hot. Too sexy for my shirt. What does that say? Orthanc. That's it.
There you
Orthanc.
go.
An early draft sketch of the Tower of Orthanc. Before Tolkien revised his ideas, of course. Okay. My tablet is on. We are connected to the wonderful wireless of Meltdown Comics. If you guys want to Skype with us, we're going to turn on Skype. Anybody want to chat with Hunter Fox, this very talented, sublimely talented young fellow? You want to ask him questions about RPG games? Have you had any experience with any, and there's many of them. Have you had any experience with any Tolkien RPGs? Whether
No, I haven't.
paper or online?
Online, the MMO I have played.
An MMO,
Yeah.
right? Everyone loves that. It's
Oh, yeah.
really good. It's
Oh,
really
yeah.
good. Yeah, right.
That's about it, though. I would like to delve into a little bit more.
Yeah. See, I did a video game voice for the Fellowship of the Ring video game. It was made for Xbox by Universal Interactive. You know, Universal.
Yes.
And I got the chance to do the voice of Samwise.
No way.
Yeah, opposite Frodo. It was a great job. It was really cool. But
I'm hiring voice actors, by the way. You may
Man.
want to get on with the next thing I'm doing.
Yeah, well, hey, I'll be glad to give, dude.
Let's do it.
I'd be glad to give you my demo. I've done a lot of voiceover, dude. I'd be so glad to be involved. All right, Skype is on if you guys have any chit-chat questions or final questions or comments or, you know, even a how do you do?
Hello
Okay,
there.
just come and say hello to us. Professor Tolkien's artwork. There's a couple more that we have to get to. We have 5 minutes left on the show, folks. And Justin, I would really love it if you could get to that Fangorn Forest. Okay? That's beautiful. That's nice. That's Thror's map. But the one that's Fangorn Forest is the one that looks really brown with all the... That's it. Remember when I said this watercolor with the barrels coming out of Mirkwood?
Right.
And they finally come to the huts of the Raft Elves? That was the cover of The Hobbit. This cover is the cover of The Two Towers. Right?
Okay.
That other image we saw that has Bagshot Row with the 3 Hobbit holes and the hill with Bag End in the far distance and all the village of Hobbiton. That was the cover of the Fellowship of the Ring, Ballantine books. The one where Bilbo arrives at the huts of the Raft Elves was the Hobbit cover. This one you're looking at, ladies and gentlemen, has Merry and Pippin. It's very, very hard to find them, but Merry and Pippin are both like Where's Waldo in this image. I dare you guys to find them. But if the producer takes Hunter and I out of this mix, we're going to see if we can see it. And I'll point to where the hobbits are found in this piece of art. This is the interior of Fangorn Forest, the way that Tolkien visualized it. And it's an exercise in all darks and all lights and creepy, creepy tree trunks. And it's really kind of cool. I don't think that Justin's at the console right now. I hope he is. But I would like to zoom in and see if we can find right down here in the roots of the trees, you'll see...
I think I see them.
No, I can't really because there's somewhere down in here. I gotta find them right down here
The
somewhere.
dark shade right
No,
about
no.
there? No, that's not
No,
them?
there's one on the far end, way over here beyond where you can see. Meriadoc is running and is jumping over, and the other one is lying down here on the roots right over here. So Skype is on. Join us for Skype.
Have you seen the Justin Sweet watercolor illustrations of The Lord of the Rings?
I love. Isn't it Daryl K. Sweet? Daryl Sweet
I
or
think
Justin?
Sweet.
Justin Sweet?
You need to check those out.
I think I have seen those. Let me pull them up right now while I'm on my my handy dandy Samsung tablet that hasn't blown up on me yet. Okay, let me put in Tolkien.
I mean, that would make an interesting show, maybe.
Tolkien, artist.
Justin Sweet. He did a lot of watercolors for, I think, Narnia, and he also did some watercolors for...
Oh yes, of course, yeah, Justin Sweet, yeah. Oh man, yeah. I've seen lots and lots of his work. His stuff is fantastic. He has, God, he reminds me of Boris Vallejo. He really does remind me of Boris Vallejo, who used to do a lot of Conan the Barbarian. And
So does Justin Sweet. He did Cole, the other...
yeah,
Powered
you did?
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super cool. That is so cool. All right, there's Fangorn Forest, and there's one more that I'd like to show you that was the cover of The Return of the King, and let's see if we can get to it. Justin, can you find the one that is Barad-dûr? That's it. No, thank you. This one right here, ladies and gentlemen, was Professor Tolkien's segment of the Dark Tower. There's red in these windows near the top, like the evil, evil red is only in the windows at the top. As you go further down the Dark Tower, there's only black windows. And fewer of them as you get down towards the base of this thing. And there's the path off to the side. The path is over here on this side that goes inside the Dark Tower. And way off in the distance, there's Orodruin, right above your cap. Right up here, there it is, Mount Doom. Well, now your head's in the way. Now, Justin, if you could take us out of the image, I want to show everybody that Professor Tolkien had the idea of getting perspective shot way before Peter Jackson had the idea of getting a perspective shot of the Dark Tower in the foreground with Mount Doom in the deep, deep background of the shot. And why mess with perfection? Peter Jackson knew, okay, this is great.
This is the recipe for success.
It matches the geography of the land. It's geographically accurate. It's historically accurate to what Tolkien wanted to show. so I might as well use this shot. And so they showed it from their version, and it's just great. You can see the exploding volcano in the distance. Justin, if you bring this, there's Sauron. But before we get to that last one, which is really cool, that should be the last one we show. But yeah, go on down.
Let me duck a little bit.
Yeah, you can jump out. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, see, there it is. There's the volcano in the distance. Yep. The volcano.
Depths of Mordor.
The elves named it Orodruin. That was what the elves
Orodruin.
named it. Orodruin, Mount Doom. There it is. And to close our show, since we've been exploring all this really cool stuff, hello Zarb. Hey Zarb. Hi Cliff and Hunter. Great stream. And it's really great to have you in the live chat. We've got one more image to show you. There it is. That is Tolkien's interpretation of the shadow of Sauron reaching across the mountains when his ring was destroyed.
I love that.
Yep. And he describes it as if it was captured by the wind and just blew away and evaporated into the west. As this evil shadow's arm reached over Elisar and Gandalf and the survivors of the men of Rohan and Gondor, the men who had survived the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. And they went to the Morannon, the Black Gate, to try to distract Sauron from...
Give Frodo the chance.
Yeah, give Frodo the chance to go. For Frodo. So that is Professor Tolkien's super creepy and original image. Oh my God, Sauron's come to get me. Sauron's come to get us. Stop it. The evil Sauron's coming to get you. If you guys are interested in learning more about Professor Tolkien as an artist and illustrator, then get yourself over to your mom and pop bookstore or dial up onto Amazon.com and look for a book called Tolkien, Artist and Illustrator by Wayne Hammond Diana Skull. Wayne G. Hammond, Hammond, and Diana Skull, Scull, almost like scullery, but not quite. So check that out, J.R.R. Tolkien, Artist and Illustrator, because it is a gorgeous, big, oversized collection with all these full-color prints. And even better, if you think that Professor Tolkien's artwork is super cool, illustrating Silmarillion, Hobbit, and Lord of the Rings, you should see how cool his stuff is for the Father Christmas letters. Awesome. So whimsical, so funny. Polar Bear, Father Christmas, the goblins, and these little invented languages that Professor Tolkien was using to intrigue his children. All that stuff. Check out Father Christmas letters. But that really cool book is Tolkien, Artist and Illustrator, and you'll learn a hell of a lot more about Professor Tolkien than you ever thought you knew, because most people just think he was a linguist and a writer. No one even knew that he actually could put the Bob Ross magic onto that canvas. So that was a very cool show. Now tell us, everybody wants to know where they can find your stuff. They can find you on a website, on your Facebook page.
SlyFoxGames.com.
Sly Fox Game. Like, if I was Officer Hops, if I was the first bunny on the force, Officer Hops, you'd be the Sly Fox doing that scam trying to sell popsicles. This is the guy who's always trying to pull this. It's called a swindle, honey. I've been doing it since I was born. That's this guy. Sly Fox Games, right?
That's it. .com.
SlyFoxGames, SlyFoxGames.com. Do you have any Instagram or
I'm on
Twitters?
Twitter more than anything. Don't go to Facebook. It hasn't been checked in 2 years. But Sly Fox Games, or at Sly Fox Games on Twitter.
I agree with that comment in the live chat. Maddie of Mordor says, was there anything Tolkien couldn't do? I agree with that. I totally. Yeah, the one thing he couldn't do, Pete, you're right. He couldn't get along with the hippies. That is exactly right. That's probably the one thing that Professor Tolkien did not want to do and could not do, is get along with his hippie neighbors and their all-night rock and roll parties. Gosh, it was so crazy. Thank you guys very much for joining us, to the entire live audience out there in the world. On Facebook, on YouTube, on Ustream, and on theonering.net/live. We thank you very much always for joining us. You can find me, Clifford Broadway, as usual, on Twitter, QuickBeam2000, QUICK B-E-A-M, like a beam of wood. That's one of Treebeard's friends, was Quickbeam. You know that?
No.
Yeah, he was one of the young Ents, and when Treebeard was busy going off for the whole day doing an Ent moot, he let Merry and Pippin get babysat by a younger, faster Ent.
Quickbeam.
It was Quickbeam. Yes, that's me, Quickbeam. It's slightly suggestive, but I didn't mean for it to be that way. But Quickbeam 2000 is where you guys are going to find me. Thank you guys for joining us on this fantastic show, and I'm sorry we didn't get any Skype calls. I tried, but, you know, nobody called in. Next week, we may have even more surprises. I don't know what.
Who knows?
I don't know what, but we're going to get ready to have some really cool reports from New York Comic-Con. Look for those news stories. More pictures, more stories, interviews with the stars, all the folks who are from thewondering.net, Rebecca, Deej, who's fantastic, and of course, Green Dragon, Kirsten, and John Tedeschi, all of our friends who took care of the fan booth and the fan table at New York Comic-Con. Thank you for this weekend. It was a great experience, I'm sure. Sorry that I missed you guys at New York. Maybe I'll get to see you guys next year. But anyways, stay tuned to thewondering.net for some updates and some cool reports from street level, from New York Comic-Con, which just finished this weekend. It was a really big show. Yeah. Oh, all the Ringer fans had a big party. We represented. It was awesome. So we're going to have some stories for that online. In the meantime, we'll see you next week, everybody. This is Hunter Fox and Clifford Broadway signing off. My buddy. It's good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, dude, it's so good to see you. It's so good to see you. Bring it on in, my friend.
I can't.